It's Monday, July 14th. Welcome to a week in the life of being a stay-home mom who wants to be a writer with a newly 5-year-old and a 6.5-year-old. This looks like a fairly typical week for us. Monday and Wednesday, we've got karate for the 5-year-old. On Tuesdays, I take my daughter to gymnastics. Hopefully on Thursday, we're going to go to my in-laws' house and do like a pool day, or possibly we'll go to the lake with my folks. But hopefully, one of those things will happen depending on the weather. We've been getting a lot of lightning storms, so we'll see. There's just some general July garden tasks to do this week. I want to weed whack this morning, which, geez, that takes forever. Oh my gosh. I just printed out chore charts for my kids, which if you have watched my like Q3 video, or kind of just like maybe any in general, it's really important to me to like instill the idea that like you clean up after yourself, right? Like it doesn't need to be crazy. So I made a chore chart for them to help visualize and motivate. Hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. But I also made like a weekly chore chart for them, which is like mostly optional. There are 7 chores, which are like very age appropriate. And if they do all 7 of those tasks and get a check mark, a parent approved check mark that they did it, then they are qualified to get like however much that allowance is. So $3 for my son and $5 for my daughter. So I'm really hoping that that becomes like a motivator, because it would actually be hugely helpful for me if they were doing these little things, you know. It all adds up so much. Today is the first day in multiple weeks where we had done enough cleaning and dishes last night that this morning I woke up and I wasn't like immediately overwhelmed by catching up with yesterday, because I'm very susceptible to that, and it just like it tanks the entire day for me. So this is nice. One day out of, multiple weeks. So hopefully this encourages a trend. Anyways, we don't need to keep talking about this. This morning I'm doing a 20-minute writing session on chapter 6 of Project Conjuror. It's my middle grade children's fantasy story. I'm excited to be going through it kind of at a slower speed than I'd been doing Project Chance, because I'd been doing 2 chapters a day, Monday to Friday, for like 4 or 5 weeks to do Project Chance. And I'm really doing more like 4 chapters a week with Project Conjurer, because I'm using it to like have a break from brainstorming Project Goblin. And that's been working out really well. So what I've found myself doing is kind of like a stair step down challenge gamification of it, because like first drafts are just like difficult for me in general, even though I'm using a pretty fleshed out outline. I have the scenes and then like bullet points of just little things that happen in the scenes. But like some of them are still a little overwhelming. Like one of the scenes is that the main character and their friends are going to play this specific game, which is going to end up being a callback at the end of the story that helps them like defeat the bad guy. And I don't know what that game is yet. So I'm calling it Cops and Robbers, and I have no idea. I'm just sort of like really lightly being like, oh, and they're like playing this game. But like in the writing, I know that's like enough of not knowing what's going on that it's going to be really hard for me to start doing anything with that. So I've been starting off writing sessions with like, do a 20-minute challenge. How much can you write for 20 minutes? And then the next time, how much can you write for 15? Then how much can you write for 10? How much can you write for 5? And usually by that point, like I've done enough that the chapter's over. So that's been going all right. So I'm about to do my 20-minute challenge. That went okay. This is a children's story, and it's meant to be like max 50,000 words when it's, final draft and all this stuff. And I tend to like try to underwrite things, but because this is a fantasy story and I'm still like world building as I go, going from like the soft idea in my head to the hard rules as I'm writing, because of that, I'm actually like way overwriting, I think, what's actually going to be in the book, because I'm like explaining the rules to myself. And so it actually is taking like a long time to write these chapters, or longer than it seems like it should for the length of these scenes. They're short scenes, but there's like a lot of them, and it's a lot of world building. So that went well. But there's a lot more still that happens in this chapter. It's like a detective story as well as fantasy, so there's a lot to get through. But it's fun. I'm gonna go check in with the kids now, do snack with them, and see if I go outside to do some weed whacking. I'm almost done with chapter 6. I think I have another 5 or 10 minute 10 chunk that I think I can finish the chapter in. But I'm taking a break from that and switching over to brainstorming, outlining. I don't know. I just kind of like roll it all into one. That's how it works for me. For Project Goblin, I'm really excited about Project Goblin. And I really like most of the things that I came up with in that like writing experiment video where I came up with the idea. But the one thing that has gotten more murky the more that I've gotten clarification on like how I want the series' world to be, and what the races are, what kind of like lore I want behind some of the races in the first couple books at least, and like who I want bad guys to be, and kind of like larger politics going on, the less sense it makes and the less attached I am to this like magical monolith idea. On its own, as like a standalone thing, that's cool, that's fine. There's probably a way to do it. But I've kind of like come up with a lot of stuff for these characters now, and there are a lot of things that could pull them together, and a lot of goals that would be, I think, more interesting and more of a challenge for them to accomplish, and just like be more interesting than finding out about this monolith thing. So the log line I had decided on for the writing experiment was: when a plucky but jaded fae discovers a long-lost niece involved in a feud between cultural heritage defender group and radical scientist group, she must help her niece to protect the magical monolith before the radical scientists destroy it, releasing the goblin god Kagathir Endic to wreak his vengeance on the world. So, has a lot of potential. It could be very fun. It's not particularly a romance novel. And as I was thinking about like how would these characters interact, what's that dynamic that I really like between them, just like this very fun, cute dynamic, and why do they believe they're like, why do they have these misbeliefs that they have that I randomly rolled for? And it just doesn't make sense to have that as a logline. And I've actually come up with like most of the scenes that I think I want in the first sequence of the story. So that first like 12.5% of the story. And I really, really like the way that those interact with each other. I think it's really cute and it's really fun. And so it's just like having that tie into whatever the larger goal is, which there could be a couple things, but what I want to do is make my life easier. And knowing that this is not a fantasy first story, it's a romance first story, I want the logline to reflect that. And the goal needs to, in some way, have to do with them and it being a romance. So, what I ended up doing, because I was like, I feel like there could be a bunch of different desire lines, and the love interests is the only one that's like strong enough on its own. Like, there's only one real desire line that I think he would have, but the core of the story isn't that. That's like his drive. And I want the protagonist's desire line to be the one that's driving the plot. And so, in some way, her goal is an opposite to what he wants. And there's an overarching, like, bad guy that they face at the end whose goal is in opposition to what they both want. So, it's kind of funny. So, what I did was I made a table on Google Docs and I just like wrote like, okay, main character, her desire line. What are some possibilities for her desire line? So I put all the ones that came to mind. And for the love interest, he had his own column, like what does he want? So I put that. And then the big bad guys, like what do they want? And from there, like what can we have as a goal that the main character has that's in opposition to what the love interest and the big bad guys like want. And I think I figured it out. But it doesn't feel completely clarified. Immortals After Dark is my series comp, right? So it's by Kresley. I'll put a link in the description if you've never heard of it. They're great books. I'm not trying to like do what she's doing, but I think that she found a really great method for delivering that kind of like action, fast-paced fantasy romance. And so I've just kind of been like rereading a couple of her books and doing a brief summary of each chapter, like what actually happened, how she sets things up, what percent of the book like she has certain things happening, to just sort of inform my own work with pacing and how I want to lay things out, because I do think she does a really good job with like keeping you engaged and not wanting to put the book down. And that's like a similar vibe to what I want to do. I'm going to have my own lore, my own like most common like fantasy races that I write about. There's a lot of things that she does in her books that I'm gonna totally not do at all. But I did write like a bunch of the common things that she has and whether it was something I thought I would pursue or not. Because I think for myself, it's good to just like get that clarification right away when world building a series that I would like to stay in for like a long time. Like Immortals After Dark has, I don't know, 17 books, 20 books. It's like a lot of books, and there's a lot of she could just keep going the way that she created her world and all these recurring characters. And I want to have something that's like similar for people who enjoy her books and are like, oh, but like what can I read until the next one comes out? I want them to think of like my series, even though I'm going to do things a little different. I'm going to go a little lighter on some things. But let me just share a couple of the takeaways that I got from that analysis. One of the big things that I think I'm going to be doing differently is that in a lot of her books, she has the female lead being mortal, human, and that being like one of the driving forces for the things that happen is that this immortal male lead is trying to make the female lead immortal as well. A bunch of the books hinge on that as like a main idea, and that works really well for having a strong reason for there to be just like unresolvable conflict between the two of them. It's like, oh, you want to like change my species? What the hell? But at the same time being like very relatable because this is a very violent world, and obviously they want to like protect their person, their woman. So I think that works really well as a dynamic. I actually don't want to have any mortals. I don't want humans at all. So I'm recognizing that I'm taking away this huge, really useful dynamic tool from myself, but I kind of just like don't really want to do that. The men are always obviously very attractive, but also like very powerful physically, which makes sense because she's set this in a very action world. The world is violent, and so you have to be violent in order to get by in it. And I like that. I do want to keep that. And the females are also very, very capable people. Like possibly they're mortal, but possibly they're immortal, and regardless, they're very capable and they don't need the man to save them. They are able to save themselves, and in fact, they kind of usually want the man to like go away because they have this thing that they're trying to achieve anyways, and he's like getting in the way. And there's always a really good reason why the two leads can't be together that the readers know going into it. And so the whole way through, you get that really strong sense of like, no matter what, it's not going to work because like this thing, we have to get like a conflict from there. And once there's a conflict from there, like it's just all over. There's no way past it. And I think she does a really good job delivering on that like inevitable scene where it all like falls apart. I really like that. I think she also does a really good job having the goal not be the same every time. Like in some books, it might be escape the bad guy. In other ones, it's win the competition or get the magical object or become human again or convince their mate to be with them. Like there's a bunch of different actual goals. And I like that. I want to do that too. I don't want to have the same goal every book. And fated mates, of course, she's got as one of her main things that works for the series. And I want to do that too. I think it's too useful, too popular to pass up, but I do want to do it like in my own way. So that's something to think about. So as I'm thinking about this stuff and the characters and what kinds of scenes I would like to have, things were getting frustratingly more murky as opposed to more what I thought would be like very easily clarified because I had already come up with like a lot of stuff for Project Goblin. But since I'm changing the goal, a lot of stuff is changing. But I think it will be for the better. And I think I'm really close to what I want to do. Anyways, enough talking. I'm going to do a 25-minute like brainstorming time block. It is now 4:30. My husband did not hit traffic, so he was able to take our son to karate. And my daughter is at the neighbor's house playing in the sprinkler. So that's nice. So Mama was able to start getting some baked potatoes ready. I'm going to cook some steak and saute some greens from the garden. But before I do that, I'm going to do hopefully one last 10-minute writing session on chapter 6 of Project Conjurer and hopefully get that wrapped up. And that will feel really good. The next couple chapters are the most murky because there's a lot of like world building, friendship stuff that I'm going to kind of like figure out as we go. And I may end up just like skipping those and doing those last and just kind of doing the plot heavy stuff. It's 8:30 Tuesday morning. And the first thing that my 5-year-old said when I went downstairs was, "Mom, I want to mop the living room." Because that's one of his weekly chores that I think the concept of like at the end of the week, if you do all your chores, you get $3 as an allowance is a little hard to grasp. But I did like give the more immediate fun satisfaction of if you do a weekly chore, I will let you have 3 fun snacks that you would not normally get right away, no matter what time of day it is. And like regular snacks that he likes are like those like butter round crackers and like graham crackers. He's a real he loves crackers. The fun snacks are jam bars, granola bars, potato chips, cookies. He wanted that for breakfast. And he did a great job mopping. So that was really nice. And then my daughter did one of her weekly chores, which is like wiping the baseboards in the kitchen and the bathroom. It's super easy stuff. It only takes like, 10 minutes for a kid to do it. So that was a great way to start off the morning. That was so nice. So we had breakfast. Now we're kind of like doing our own thing. My plan for today is to get a little bit closer to what I want the goal of the story to be. Just keep chipping away at like what feels right. What I really liked about the first goal that I just like randomly rolled for this project, the goal was to end a feud. And then it turned into like destroy a monolith. And what I liked about that is that it's very clear the end is very easy to see. Like, I mean, you either achieve it and you destroy the monument or you fail to achieve it, you don't destroy the monument. So it's very easy to see where it ends. And there are easy markers of progress. So I really liked that. But the more I'm delving into these people's backstories, the more it's like, that doesn't like what would they be doing around this monolith? Like, it doesn't really make sense with things that I like that I'm coming up with their backstory. And then the thing that I want to keep in mind over everything is that what I really want is the tone between them that I came up with. And it's a very like cute, fun tone. So if the stakes are super serious, then the tone doesn't really make sense. So blah, blah. So I printed out very basic 8 sequence chart, and I'm just going to play with like a couple different chosen goals and how that might play out and see if one of them makes more sense and like what are the things that would happen in order to like get to that goal marker. I'm going to spend a time block doing that. So I tried a bunch of different goals for the female lead. And actually, there's just like so much variation possible because I don't know. I still can't like figure out exactly her goal for the story. So I switched over and I started working on like what if we look at it from the male lead's perspective, what his goal is, because he does have like a very clear goal. So I think that may be the key. I think that may be the key. So I took his goal and I haven't put things into like what sequence that would happen, but I broke down like what is his plan for how he's going to try to achieve this goal. And there are such specific certain steps that he needs to take in order to achieve this goal. So that's exciting. It's 9:30 right now, so I'm going to go check in with the kids if they've done their morning stuff, and then I do want to try to like mow the other part of the yard and weed whack the other part of the yard before it gets too hot. We have a heat advisory starting at 11 o'clock this morning, going for the next couple days. So we'll check in about that. I'm so glad I got that done. And I'm so tired now. It's after lunch. I'm supposed to be starting my writing time, and I'm exhausted. So I'm trying to wake up. I actually haven't done any of my writing for chapter 12 of Project Conjurer, and so I'm hoping to write the entire chapter. I don't think it's a long chapter, and I have part of it written already, but like starting halfway through the day being exhausted, it's not ideal. I'm gonna finish drinking my coffee. I'm gonna get my stuff set up, and I'm gonna do a 20-minute writing sprint and see if I need to lay down after that. I don't sleep well. That's like the whole thing is I just like don't sleep. Anytime between 1:30 to 5, I might just be awake that entire time. Like I don't sleep. It's a damn shame. It's 8:42 at night, and I'm very annoyed. I write on Dabble because I have a Chromebook and I'm often like going somewhere with the kids where there's no internet, so I can't use Chromebook unless there is a non-internet way of writing. Dabble does that, and it does sync back up once you get back to somewhere you have internet. I've tried using Google Docs because you can do the little toggle that's like, oh, make it available offline. However, many times I have had that toggled. I've refreshed it so that it's like, yes, I'm available offline. I'll go somewhere that has no internet and it'll be like, do you want to like turn on the thing so that you can use this? You should go back to internet so you turned on. It's just like, I did that. I did that. I used it offline since then. And then suddenly out of nowhere, you like turned off permissions. Like, what's going on? So I've been using Dabble and I really like it. I went to gymnastics with my daughter. I finished chapter 13 that I was writing. It wasn't like that much. It was like 10 minutes of work. It was probably like 200 words. It was just finishing it off. There's no internet there. I came back home. I did not click on the Dabble screen. I was on a different window editing something on Google Docs. And somehow it didn't like save everything to the internet once it was hooked back up because my computer just died. And when I refreshed everything, Dabble was like, haha, you have everything you had before gymnastics. So I don't know, that's so frustrating. It's not like it was that much, but I was done. And I am done with it. So now I have to go think back and be like, what were the shitty words that I wrote, you know? And let me write them again. It was just so annoying because I was on my computer at the house for like an hour working on Google Docs, assuming it was going to just upload because the window is still open, right? It's just a different tab. But I don't know, like since I didn't click the tab, it didn't upload, like I don't know. Anyways, live and learn. Super annoying. Before that, I was going to be like, it's been a great day. Should you let one thing ruin your day? Why not? Anyways, all right, I guess I'm going to do that. I did it. It was better the first time, but it's done now. Again. Anyways, I'm having a good time with my like chapter analysis of Beguilement for the book club thing I want to do, which I probably won't post the first video until I have like a couple chapters done. I feel like overall today was a really good day. It just was very, very hot. A little kerfuffle at the end there. And I didn't end up doing as much brainstorming for Project Goblin as I was hoping that I would. I didn't do anything after this morning. So that's okay. But that would have felt better. It's July 16. It's 9:10 in the morning. And I'm about to sit down and start my first 20-minute writing sprint of the day. My tarot card reading was like very positive as far as having a breakthrough in Project Goblin. I think one of the problems is that I've been coming at this from the goal perspective, like what is the goal of the story? And by doing that, I've been feeling how much further I'm getting from the actual tone and like dynamic I want to have between the two characters. So while I really like the goal that I had talked a little bit about for the love interest, I don't know if it's going to be the right goal for this particular book. Like I think a person in one of the other books in the series may actually have this goal because I really like it. But I think he needs to have a different goal because it's too serious. And I want them to have a very fun kind of lighthearted banter between them, which would not really make sense with that particular goal and the stakes of that goal. So I think we need to save that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get away from like, what's the goal? And I'm going to start brainstorming more along the lines of like, what do I want the romance beats between them to be like? What do I want the scene to be like when the adhesion thrust like happens? What do I want like the scene and the dynamic to be when we have like the midpoint of love scene? The dynamic between them is the most important part of this story. It's the thing that I like really, really liked the most about it when I was brainstorming. So I want to make sure that I'm not making things too serious, too high stakes for them to have that. But I need to do my 20 minutes of writing first. And this chapter that I'm writing for Project Conjurer is chapter 14. And it's kind of like a reaction chapter to an event that happened, this big surprising event that happened in the last chapter. So I think it can be pretty brief, which is good because the next chapter, there's like a lot of information that needs to come around. So yeah, that might be a hefty chapter. So I'm going to get started with that. Time to hang up some laundry outside because the dryer's not working. And have some snack with the kids and maybe go to a playground. Maybe we'll see. Today's supposed to be real temperature 90 degrees, but like again about 100 degrees feeling. So if we could do something earlier in the day, that would be great. But we're also doing karate later in the day, so I don't know if that's gonna really work. We'll see if I get through some chores at the house, how that plays out. We are not going to the playground, I'll tell you that. Supposedly, it's only 83 degrees right now. It's 10:52. But the real feel is like it's 96 degrees with 60% humidity. And it feels that way. It is so heavy. So hot. But I hung up the laundry. Hooray. I'm gonna try to write for 10 more minutes and possibly finish this chapter. We're right at like the climax of the chapter right now. So that would be great because yeah, the next chapter is going to be, I think, a lot longer and a lot of like feeling some stuff out. Okay, let's figure it out. I finished that chapter. It's only what, 688 words. It's going to get a lot longer, but I feel like there's some conversation that needs to happen where like I don't really know exactly what they're talking, like the specifics of what they're talking about, but one of the character has like information about this event that just happened. So it's brief and it leaves us off at the change, the major change that happens because of it. But it is now 11:02, so I need to do something with children. I wish that, I don't know, it's so weird having classes for the kids at like 3:30, 4:30 in the afternoons, because on those days like I just don't feel like I can do anything else. Like I can't do a go to the lake in the morning day because I know that'll take everything out of me. When we get home, I'll just like collapse in exhaustion and then we'll get up and go to their activities. Just like that, I can't do that. It would be a great day to be at the lake though because it's so hot. So, I don't know. If I had better energy, I feel like it would be fine, you know? If I got bad energy all the time, every day, love to sleep, love to know how to sleep one day. And then we've just had lightning storms, like an insane amount of lightning storms. I don't remember ever having lightning storms like more than once in a month ever in my life. We're in Massachusetts. It's just like not normal. It feels like every other day is a lightning storm for the whole month of July. I'm sure it's less than that, but it's like significant. And there are 3 forecasted for this week, including a couple of the days where like we don't have kid activities. It's just like, well, I'm not gonna swimming if there's gonna be a lightning storm. It is 3:28. I think I fleshed out my like first sequence of scenes that I really like. So like I don't have a lot of the bigger picture stuff, which is a little funny, but I do have about 9 chapters of scenes that I really like to set up the story, and then there's like a couple possibilities of where it could go from there. So we'll see if that turns into anything. I'm coming back to the monolith idea. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. We got to get ready for karate. It's Thursday, 12:46 in the afternoon, and I just spent a really good amount of time procrastinating finishing writing this chapter. I'm only supposed to do a 10-minute sprint right now, and for some reason the entire rest of this book I've been like, I can just blah 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 it out. And for this one conversation where there's a lot of information that does need to get shared, I'm like, I need it to be the perfect scene formatting quality, which I didn't write when I made my like scene outline, whatever. I don't know why I'm getting hung up on this, but like I just spent a really long time finding and reformatting my like scene making tools. Like I know this looks really funny and you can't even tell, but these are the 7 scene steps to John Truby's like scene structuring formatting tool. I don't even know what I'm saying. Anyways, I'm so over myself. There's a lot of information that I need to convey, but I didn't have like a specific, this person wants this, and then this happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm just gonna like talk it through for a couple minutes. So Henry has the power of choice in the scene. The authority figure can put a lot of pressure on him, but can't physically, literally make him give the information he needs. And Henry is going to choose in the end to probably give misleading information. He's a very smart boy. I think he's going to try his best to answer in a way that seems like he's answering in full, but it will in fact be not entirely the truth. I think that's it. Okay. Maybe not worth the 30 or whatever minutes that I spent like getting this stuff ready. Whatever. It's fine. Okay, I'm gonna see if I could just like write that now. I'm going to try to stay directly in front of this light. It's Friday. I'm going to wrap up this vlog very soon, but there have been a couple developments. Okay, so let's catch you up. Last night, my husband and my kids and I finally watched the last episode of Yu Yu Hakusho, which I have seen most of already before because my husband loves Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. Some other stuff. So, but I had never watched the entire show from beginning to end. So over the winter, we watched a lot of it. And so, like halfway through, the kids both got really interested in it, especially my daughter. So then we started watching it as a family. So we just watched the last episode last night. It's such a cute episode after, you know, a funny last arc. That was really, really nice. And then today, it's 2:38 right now. Today, the kids and I went to a state park and we walked like a mile loop, and then we played at the playground that's there, and we went grocery shopping. So like we had a whole day already. So that's great. It was such a nice day out. But the other updates. So where do I even start? Okay, so I made the revelation that I really need to focus on the brainstorming of Project Goblin and put the drafting for Project Conjurer, like, pause that. Because while I like doing both in a day, like, realistically, my brain is so fried by the afternoon. I'm just, like, exhausted, and then it was hot, and just, like, I couldn't concentrate. So, like, I did so little actual brainstorming. And I'm running out of time in the quarter to meet my goals with Project Goblin, because apparently what I really like to do is like have a couple weeks of like really invested brainstorming, outlining, and then take a break. I do something totally different for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then come back and be like, okay, what am I going to change about the way I outlined this? And get that set and be like, okay, I feel like I could sit down and write the book. So let me take another week or two of a break. And then come back and actually, like, you know, fast draft it. And that worked so well the last, 1 or 2 projects I did. So I really want to do that. But, like, obviously if I've got, like, 1 to 2 week breaks, like, there's, you know, 2 to 4 weeks of just, like, not working on it. And then I think this book is actually looking like it's going to be more short chapters that lend themselves to like, oh, I want to keep reading, like what's going on. It's like sometimes like just single scenes. So think like 1,000 to 1,500 word chapters. I think that's what it seems like it wants to be, and I like that. And I think that's also like similar to the pacing for Immortals After Dark, which like I think works really well to just like make you want to keep reading. And so like I'm trying to emulate that too. So that means that I think it would actually be like closer to 60 or 70 chapters, and like the same word count, right, that I had been thinking I would be doing. But anyways, I just like we gotta work towards actually getting that draft started, because oh my god. Oh, hey buddy, what's up?
Can I use another piece of your printer paper?
Yeah, you can use the printer paper.
So I decided I'm going to take a break from fast drafting Project Conjurer and instead like really focus in and see if I can get a rough draft of like the outline and get like a solid idea of rough chapter events, you know, have the core things like what the goal of the story is and some of those like core parts of it. I would like to get that done by next Friday if possible. It's a lot and I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to like settle. You know what I mean? So if it's not done then it's not done then. That's fine. But I'm going to like prioritize that. I'm going to move drafting Project Conjure to like that would be like the break that I take once I feel like I have the rough draft of this outline. So with that in mind, I've been doing a lot of like brainstorming, and you can see how do fingers work. This thing on the wall.
That's my like 8 sequences sheet. I think I showed like that in progress in some other clips. But so each of those sequences is 12.5% of the book. And then I have it broken down into like what is the main idea of what's happening in this sequence, like what's the change by the end of this sequence. And then further breaking that down to like what's the setup of it, what's the inciting event, what's the midpoint, what's the climax for all of them. And then I could just like sticky note and be like, what if we did this here? What if we do this here? And the purple sticky notes are like, what if these were the goal that the characters have? Like, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff. Oops. There's a bunch of stuff still that we could do as the goal. It's really funny because obviously like in the writing experiment for this project, the whole point of it was to see if I could take the goal and easily break it down and be like, here's the progression of the story. And now, like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't think that's the goal I want to have for this story, though. And actually, I'm not going to worry about what the goal is right now because it's these other scenes that I really like that I want to like make sure are in the story and then like what goal makes sense to tie this together. So it is actually very funny. But that's what's going on. And I had another little bit of a breakthrough. I've been comparing this series to Immortals After Dark, and I do like that. But I think it's more of like Immortals After Dark, but make it cozy. Because what I really like are like the very action feel to the Immortals After Dark books. I love the setting. I love the like grand stakes and all of this stuff. And I want to do that, but I want to make it like lighter, like cute. Not like saccharine or saccharin, however you say that, but just like charming, cozy, you know? Like I think I'm going for like, yeah, Immortals After Dark, but make it cozy. So, oh, okay, this is why I started recording right now because I'm in the middle of like trying to figure out a couple little like pitches for this book. I have 2 so far. Optimistic girl pushed too far and the pessimistic shitlord, which is like I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. I like obviously don't want to call my male lead a pessimistic shitlord. So like we're gonna keep brainstorming. And then the second one was like, oh, I didn't even finish it yet, but it's like the peppy popular girl and the brooding hot nerd, but make them a fae general and a fae scientist. And I want it set in this goblin world, and I had initially been thinking like, ooh, what if the goblins like made lots of like magical armor and weapons and they're really good like smiths. And then I was like, but what if they were extremely cute? And what if they actually were like super artisans, but also like had mushroom magic and like and so I was like, you kind of have to decide like, are you going more of the like Immortals After Dark or are you going more like cozy? Because like, what are we doing here? And to be honest, I think I'm just going more cozy because mushroom magic? I mean, give me a break. That's so funny. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep thinking. I gotta get myself some tea. And yeah, I'm having a good time. there are a lot of like scenes or situations that I'm like, wouldn't it be so funny though if we did this? Wouldn't it be so cute if we did this? And yeah, I'm just having a good time. It's a few days later. I tend to just like not film on the weekend when my husband's home. It just like feels weird because I know he can hear me. And I'm just like, no one listened to me. Like, I know I'm gonna put this on the internet, but like, no one listened to what I'm saying. But it was a really nice weekend. We went to a farmer's market. We didn't have any specific commitments that we had made, and so it just like feels more relaxed. Even if we do a lot, I just am like, oh, but we could do it at any time. We don't have to go do this thing on this day. So yeah, it was a great weekend. I did a lot of brainstorming. I'm feeling really good about Project Goblin. My kids are arguing outside. I should go check on that. They've been doing this like, let's pinky promise to play this game at this time, and then one of them will change their minds and just like not want to play the game, and then they're like, you broke the pinky promise. So I I think that's what's going on out there, so I'm gonna check on that. Feeling good though, feeling good. Started writing a little bit of Project Goblin. I wrote the first chapter and I really like it. I think this is like one of those projects where I'm gonna like discover a lot about it through writing, which is like weird for me. I don't know. Each project is so different, right? So, anyways, I'm just gonna keep following intuition with it, but it's going well. I hope this was semi-interesting, seeing honestly like a pretty productive week in my life, I think. How nice. I hope your writing's going well. I hope your summer's going well, and I'll see you in the next video.